Happy customers, happy life. In this day and age, customer experience is everything. Delight customers and they will come back again and again and advocate for your product or services. Mess up your customer experience, well, you might not live to tell the story. But how do we get this right? How do we stand out from the rest? How do we ensure our customer experience is the best? How do we build communities? How does technology impact our efforts? I think we have just the perfect guest to answer these questions. Christina Garnett is a fractional chief customer officer and advisor with a special talent for boosting customer satisfaction and fostering brand loyalty. From Fortune 500 companies to small businesses, she's been there, done that. Christina, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about all things customer experience.
Very good. Let's get started with the basics. What do you do today for a living?
So I'm a fractional chief customer officer and advisor. I work with startups and agencies that would love to have someone represent the customer throughout their everyday life, but they don't either have the head count or they don't have the budget, but they know that the customer experience is important. That's where I come in.
Very good. And tell us a little bit about your story. Did you always want to become a leader in customer experience and brand loyalty? How did you get there?
So it's been a very interesting road. I was an English major in college. I actually went into math as a teacher for 5 years, took some time off to be a stay-at-home mom, went back and joined the workforce, had to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I was always drawn to the customer. I did a lot of social listening. I did social strategy for ICUC and worked with Fortune 500 brands there. And then I've worked at the SBDC as a marketing director. I've worked with small businesses. I've helped nonprofits. I've literally hit every kind of major segment in the business sector. But it always came down to this like invisible thread throughout my entire career of wanting to know what was the customer experience like? What did they like? What did they hate? What made them drawn to us? And so that kind of focus on curiosity, social listening, and customer insights has always kind of been a part of my life.
You've certainly been busy.
Yeah.
How do you define the role of a chief customer officer, and why is it so important for modern businesses?
I think it really comes down to being the chief collaboration officer. A lot of the people that think about customer experience, they think about customer success, which is a part of it, but it's not the full picture. And so a chief customer officer, because they're thinking about the full customer experience, they need to be deeply collaborative and want to connect people. They want the social team to talk to sales. They want sales to talk to advertising. They want customer success to be able to talk to social and marketing and customer advocacy. There's so many silos in these companies, not intentionally, just by head down doing the work. But you need someone who's going to break down those silos, get everyone in the same room and say, like, we have a common goal. If we take care of the customer will take care of us. And that's what the chief customer officer does.
Very good. A holistic approach, right? And
Yes.
in your experience, what are the key elements of building a strong customer community?
I think it really comes down to it. You have to do a ton of research. There's this idea that a lot of community managers and a lot of community professionals will talk about is the whole like, if you build it, they will come. We all know it's a myth, but people will still go in and immediately want to jump into, let's build a community, let's launch it, but they're not doing the boring work beforehand. They're not doing customer interviews. They're not doing beta testing to see what are their needs, because you could build a community for what you think they need and it's not it. Or they might tell you exactly what they want, but it isn't what they need. And you need to be able to have a lot of data, a lot of customer pain points, understanding of your personas, who this is for. You really need to do a lot of that boring work before you do the flashy, splashy launch, the campaign, the whole like, let's fling the doors open and get everyone in here. And that's what it really comes down to. You have to do the boring work. You can tell the communities that have not done it because they think that they'll just make an announcement and the doors will just fly off the handles because there's too many people trying to get in. That's just not what it is. It's just like with anything else when you're doing marketing, you have to create the demand first and then give them what the demand is asking for. And so community works very similarly. Where's the demand? Can you build that demand if there isn't any currently? Can you see if there's a hole in the market? And then really doing those customer insights, those interviews, social listening, survey dives, like what is it that they need and how can we provide a space for them that they actually want to be a part of and return. A lot of people will build a community and the whole thing is, I just got to get them in there. That's actually the easy part. Getting them to return is incredibly difficult. Very, very difficult, actually.
You are very big on the human element of customer interaction, right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
technology keeps advancing. We have new tools everywhere, AI, everyone going crazy
Yeah.
about AI. How can companies really leverage technology to enhance those human elements of customer interactions?
They need to build out their full customer experience journey. A lot of them will do the customer journey up until they become a customer, but they kind of like trickle down. It kind of avoid what they need after they're a customer, so post-sale. What you need to do is you need to look at the pre-customer journey, the post-sale journey, and you need to think about what are the major milestones that they're going to hit during that journey that deviate their path. So we're doing a lot of game theory. Where are the different paths where they could turn left or turn right? They could hit this button or they could make this call. They could convert or they could leave your site. And then you need to look at which of those milestones or pain points needs empathy. If you are unsure of where AI needs to go or where humans need to go, look for where empathy needs to be. AI is doing a lot of great stuff, but it is not empathetic yet. And there's no way of knowing when it will be able to be empathetic. So you need to be very thoughtful about where is their emotion involved. Great place to think about this is customer support for airlines. Because there's so much at scale and there's so many people that are having issues or there's cancellations, they've automated practically everything they can because they know that they can't handle the volume. That's fine. However, you are dealing with people who are hyper emotional because maybe they're going to miss a flight and now they don't know when they're going to get home. Or they have children with them and their children are not emotionally prepared or not old enough to understand. So that's going to make that situation harder. There are people who are going to miss families. They're going to miss weddings. They're going to miss major events. All of that context is emotional. And there is not a single bot that can calm you down when you are a human that is pissed off or crying or angry and you know you're talking to a bot. You literally need a human that can be empathetic, or if nothing else, you need a human that can deal with whatever you need to lash out at them. A lot of people need to talk to a human because they think they trust a human will be able to actually understand why it's so dire. And they're not just going to like put it in an algorithm and say you're 10th in line. They also, for better for worse, need to yell at somebody. And yelling at a robot does not feel the same as yelling at a human. It just doesn't. And so you need to look at the post-sale and pre-sale customer journey, and you need to figure out where are these people going to be the most emotional? Where is their need going to feel the most paramount? And that is what you need to make human. Maybe there's a way where you start them off with a chat bot, but there is an opportunity for them to say, if you are in one of these categories, if one of these things is happening to you, then we're going to get you in line to speak to a human. I'm not anti-AI. I am very pro choose your own adventure. There are tons of people who don't care when it gets fixed. They just need the ball rolling. I'll gladly talk to a bot. I'll gladly talk to something that can put me in an algorithm and start feeding me through a decision tree. There are sometimes, though, it's going to have to be a human for empathy, for context, for immediacy. It's going to have to be a human. And you, as the business owner, should understand your customer journey and your product or service well enough to understand where are those major points where they're going to need to speak to a human. And what you're doing by putting a bot in front of them is you're pouring gasoline on a fire. You have someone who's already pissed off, who's already angry, who already feels ignored, and now you're letting them talk to a robot. They already feel disenfranchised. They already feel taken for granted. And by putting them in front of a robot instead of a human, you are confirming that emotion, which is only going to make them worse, which is only going to escalate everything.
It's amazing. I've been flying a lot this year, and I've been through situations where flights get canceled, and I've seen stewardess just saying, download the app and do it through the app, and people going crazy. Like, I'm seeing you, you are in front of me, and you're asking me to download
Yeah,
an app in
yeah,
this very
yeah,
hard moment.
yeah. You're right here. You're right here. Please be human. You're right here.
Exactly.
Help me. Yes.
Help me.
Yeah.
Is that the key to personalizing the experience, knowing exactly what moments to make more human in that decision tree? What would you say is the key to personalize the experience for the customers?
I think it comes down to you need to know what personalization looks like for people. So we've kind of lived in this world where we have those smart captions and emails where you can have something go to your CRM or a spreadsheet and it'll automatically get their name right. That's fantastic, but that's the bare minimum now. I don't consider that personalization. I consider that like, congratulations, all did that 10 years ago. Now it's, what does personalization look like to us? Could it be, for example, I fly Delta a lot. And so I've gotten upgrades quite a few times because of my medallion status. And so it's very clear when I get upgraded, I know why I got that. I know that my behavior set that ball in motion. So I know that's a level of personalization that not a lot of people think about. So you think about loyalty programs, how are you demonstrating that the behavior they're doing is giving them a personalized experience? Because everyone wants to feel special, but if I know what I can do to make myself special in your eyes, I'm more likely to do that desired behavior. And that's how loyalty programs really work. Like, yes, they're gamified and yes, you get all these things, but it's because it's very clear. If I do this behavior, I will be treated better. And I want that better treatment. And this is something I could absolutely do. I'm going to be more likely to do that. It's positive reinforcement. The other thing is understanding, where can you do really small behaviors that can create big impact? So you see this all the time, and I'm going to continue to pick on airlines. There is a guy, I'm going to pick on Delta, but not in a bad way. There's a guy on TikTok. There's a lot of videos about him in a good way. He's gone viral. I think he was in Charlotte or something, but it was one of the deck attendants at Delta. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning, and he has a radio, and he's like jamming and dancing and singing and all this other stuff. And everyone is loving it because it just exudes positive energy. And it makes you think like, dude, I bet this guy is amazing on a flight. Like, I bet he'd make me laugh. I bet if I had a kid with me or someone that was afraid of flying, that he could calm them down and kind of get their mind off things. But it's those little things that people remember. And it doesn't have to be huge. It's the letting a little kid who's never flown before get to see the cockpit. It's the little wings that they get. It's the, hey, I know that I've seen you on my flight before and I know that you're gluten-free. I'm not going to offer you a biscotti. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's little things that make people feel special. And that's what it comes down to relationships too. It's that I was thinking about you. And so I did this. It's the, I remembered you. And so I did this. And that is what I think we need to be thinking about in terms of personalization. A lot of brands right now, they think in terms of what can I automate to make this feel human, instead of what can I automate so that I have time to be more human in all these other places. You shouldn't automate the human. You should automate everything else that you can so that you have the time to be unapologetically human with your customers, with your audience, what that looks like. That man dancing, that's not a video that you scale and you put in every single airport and now everyone thinks Delta's the singing dancing app. It's that man being unapologetically human at 5 o'clock in the morning and having immaculate vibes. And yes, we're in this big AI hype cycle, but you're seeing more and more people get turned off by it because we miss the human, we miss the connection. It's hard to trust AI. It's easier to trust a human. It's easier to trust someone in front of you. And I think we need to balance that instead of having them compete against each other.
I absolutely love it. You just inspire me, and you remind me of I was just reading the book Setting the Table by Danny Meyer.
Yeah.
And you know how it talks, you know, the hospitality industry and the waitresses and everyone that's
Yeah.
just you know, talking to the customers there, and how can they make it different, right? How can they collect the dots and then connect the dots and just make it a different experience? I love it. I think it's great. um can you discuss about the concept of customer fandoms and how brands can cultivate these loyal communities? You were talking a little bit about it, right? That's human
Yeah.
thing, but tell us more about that.
Yeah. So when I was at HubSpot, I created Hub Fans, which was an advocacy program where we had our basically our loudest and proudest customers, partners who wanted to really kind of highlight and showcase their stories with HubSpot and everything that they're doing. And I've seen a lot of really other companies do this in a fantastic way. Adobe has Adobe Insiders, you have the Salesforce Trailblazers. Like there's a lot of companies that do this, but we also see this in ways where you have Lego, for example, or Sephora. Like they're building these fandom communities where they're doing more than just celebrating these customers. They're amplifying and empowering them in ways. So they get to be the creators, they get to be the voice of the expert, they get to be seen as something beyond the customer. And that's going to fuel fandom. That's going to make people want to connect. That's going to make people want to be a part of it. And so when you think about fandoms, you think about brands that want to cultivate this affinity, but they're not willing to do the work to get there. They think that like it goes from, well, they became a customer, now I can turn them into a fan. But what they don't realize or they don't accept is all the things that have to work in order for someone to become a fan, and it takes time. For example, there's a phrase that I said a few times in a couple of presentations where it's I do a lot with psychology and I do a lot with positive reinforcement and how you are conditioning people essentially. You want to do all these behaviors, but you act like it's in a vacuum. The people who you were talking to and reacting to are going to remember all these past touch points. They're not going to think like, oh, it was a past campaign. They're going to remember how you made them feel during that. So, for example, I'll say something like, if you're going to put out the fires, you also need to water the flowers. So you could have social teams ready to go. You have escalation processes for someone talking badly about your brand or complaining. You have a full escalation, like red flag process. Great, as you should. But do you have anything in place for when someone loves on you? When someone's positively talking about your brand? Most brands don't. Or they do, but it's only if someone has a certain number of followers or the post has a certain number of virality likes. And so there becomes a problem where if you only talk to people and rally and run to them when they're mad at you, but you don't have that same immediacy when people are loving on you, they're saying I love you and you're not saying I love you back. You're ignoring them. You are conditioning that person to never talk about you positively again. You are signaling them, whether you realize it or not, that you only talk to your customers when they're pissed off. So you're conditioning your customers to only talk about you when they're mad, when they have something to complain about. So all the positive word of mouth you could have, you've destroyed unintentionally because you didn't love them back. Would it kill you to take 2 seconds to send them a heart emoji and be like, oh, we're so glad to hear that, or that means the world to us, or we're so glad that you were happy, or just repost it? You know how many people would be excited to be reposted by a brand that they're in love with? You turn love into like capital love. They're going to tell every single person that they know that they just got liked by a brand, that they just got reposted by a brand. Instead, you ignore them. They're telling you they love you. They're telling everyone to run to you. They are basically signaling that other people need to send you money and you can't make 2 seconds to thank them. That's wild to me.
I agree. I agree. And so that's one of the mistakes companies make, right? When cultivating a loyal community. What else are they doing wrong, right? And especially about technology, what other things are they not getting right about their customer experience strategies?
They are focusing on metrics, quantitative metrics only. They're not focusing on the qualitative. Data is important, and if you're a marketer and you're new to the career, like, I'm sorry, you're going to spend way more time in spreadsheets than you ever thought humanly possible. You need to accept it. You need to deal with it. It is what it is. Here's the thing, though. You're going to be judged by quantitative data. but it's qualitative data that's going to actually explain what the quantitative data is. They are hyper indexing on quantitative and they're not looking at the qualitative or even trying to get the qualitative data at all. So great example of this, Morbius, the movie. They had a whole meme about them, like it's Morbin time and all this other stuff. And they saw all these conversations. And instead of doing the social listening and looking for the context of this, they just saw the quantity and they didn't look at the quality or the context. So they decided, hey, this would be really cool for us to re-release the movie. Look at all these people who were talking about us. And it died. It was tremendously embarrassing. It bombed again. It's because they looked at the quantitative data. They did not look at the qualitative. They did not look at the context. They did not look to see what they were doing. You compare that instead to the Sonic movie. I say this as like the Sonic 3 trailer just got released this week. It looks amazing. When the original Sonic 1 trailer came out, it was hated. Same kind of experience, a lot of quantity. The difference is that Paramount looked at the qualitative and said, okay, a lot of people are talking about us. What are they saying? Well, they hate the look of Sonic. He has human teeth. It's very weird. They hate it. And instead of focusing only on the quantitative and saying like, ooh, all these people are talking about Sonic, it's going to do well, they looked at the qualitative and said, ooh, we have a problem. We need to fix it. So they went in, they delayed the release. They spent, I think it was like $5 million extra to fix everything. And then it made an insane amount of money because they took the qualitative data into account and they fixed it. And now they have a trilogy. You need to look at both. You need to look at the quantitative. So instead of just saying like, why is our churn numbers up? Let's look at the qualitative data. Is there a feature update that we should have made that we haven't delivered on? Are there bugs that are not getting fixed? Did the price go up? And that's why, like, it's not the what, it's the why and the what. You can't fix the problem if you don't know why the problem exists. And so many companies only focus on the quantitative. You need to balance, this whole podcast is going to be about balance. You need to balance AI and technology with human, and you need to balance the qualitative with the quantitative. You need both. You need a world where you focus on both because they inform each other, and that's how you can be successful.
So Paramount was very good at it. Who else is doing a great job at this that you look at them and you go like, wow, that's the way to go about it?
Lego. Lego's killing it right now. Lego is absolutely killing it. You could easily call them a toy company, but they have such a pulse on their audience and they know how to cater to things of all ages, audiences across the world. They are working on all of these partnerships. They're getting into sneakerhead culture where there's like a Nike partnership that they're doing, which is really cool. They had a tweet go viral a few months ago where it looked like just like nonsense on a keyboard. And then the very next tweet was the Lego cat sitting on the laptop. Just brilliant things. It's just they pay very close attention to what's happening in the world. And then they find a playful way to join in. They are not afraid of taking themselves too seriously. How can we make this fun? How can we basically be the toy brand that gets it for all ages? And so Lego's absolutely killing it. That's my answer.
We talked a little bit about this, but how do you see the future of customer experience, right? There are good things happening, there are bad things happening. What are the trends that you're seeing with the advancements in AI and machine learning?
I think what we're going to see is we're going to see more personalization. What I'd love to see is an opportunity for brands to be able to do a lot more signaling for things. And like, I think fashion technology is on the rise. And I think the way that we're learning about what people are liking is going to become even more pervasive. TikTok has really changed how brands are able to highlight things. Coach just released their Coach Empire carryall, and it's all over my TikTok. I've been seeing like the tweets and the pictures of the runway show from earlier this year, and then to be able to see it being rolled out on TikTok and stuff has been absolutely phenomenal. So I think what you're going to see is this blend of how can fashion pay more attention to the brands and to the trends that they're seeing and also the anti-trends. There's a lot of anti-trends happening. How can they take that information to be able to inform future products, what people are looking for, what does that look like? And I think also using all that data to figure out what's going to be best. So for example, I'd love to see an opportunity, and some brands might even be doing this. I'd love for machine learning to be able to go in and feed through all of the feedback that brands are able to connect and say, like, given all of this information, what are the biggest problems that this company is having? What are our biggest pain points for our customers? What should we prioritize? Are you seeing trends and patterns that we're currently not seeing? Because if you have siloed teams, each siloed team, depending on how much access they have to the customer, might have very different views as to what the problem is and what they need to focus on. If you can get all of that data together and put it into a learning opportunity for them to be able to go through like countless data points, customer behaviors, what does this look like? And then be able to use that to suggest how can we optimize their customer journey? How can we optimize features and products to be able to better serve them? What's going to be able to make us turn into more of like a blue ocean versus a red ocean? I think that's a huge opportunity for brands, fashion tech, as well as just a normal tech space.
And what's the place, if any, for offline community engagement, and how can brands balance that with everything that's going on online?
You absolutely need offline. I think we're going to see more and more of that, because if it feels like every time I talk to someone on the internet, they're not real, it's a bot, then I'm going to need to find my human community somewhere else. And so there's a lot of offline, in-person community opportunities that I think are going to be huge. I know that like influencer and creator economy is still not going anywhere. But I would honestly absolutely love to see brands start treating their customers like influencers. If you have like your top 5 customers, I don't care what your brand is, you should be offering, if you have a conference coming up, you should offer them a chance to have dinner with the CEO or someone from the leadership team. Why are you not doing that? Why are you not doing that? Like, start treating your customers, especially your biggest customers, like influencers. How can you make them feel appreciated? How can you make them feel seen? How can you give them the VIP treatment, whether they're paying for it or not? Really zero in on who are these people, because I'm seeing this time and time again. I've seen this with Tarte and I've seen this with other brands. You could be a diehard fan, but when you see people who are not fans be treated better than you purely because they're known or they have more followers than you, it diminishes who you feel like as a customer, because you know that your being a customer is not what is seen as valuable. You're only going to be seen as valuable by how many followers you have. And that is the last thing you want your customers to feel like. I think we need to see more VIP treatment in the customer space. We need to see, and we're seeing this in the luxury space, but in the opposite way. We're seeing a lot of luxury brands kind of diminish and like knock down the VIP experience. And a lot of these people are like, I'm dropping $5,000 for a purse, and you're just giving it to me and acting like it's $100 thing. Where's the luxury? Where is the VIP? If you are a boutique brand or a brand that wants to be seen as that, thinking about like, what are the little things that we can do to make it feel over the top, to make it feel VIP, to make it feel luxury. It's a huge way for you to take someone who loves your brand and get them to a whole different level. I'd love to see more people do that.
I love it. Christina, one last question to you, and more personal. What do you do when you are not working?
I'm writing a book right now, so I'm doing that. That's taking up a lot of my time. When I'm not doing that, I spend time with my family. I read a lot of books. I watch a lot of movies. I'm going to be seeing Shaun of the Dead Friday because it's being re-released for the 20th anniversary. I'm so excited. It's one of my favorite movies. Yeah, lots of escapism, a lot of fantasy, a lot of fiction in my life when I'm not writing.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love it. Christina, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. So many golden nuggets of advice, so many learnings here packed into this 30 minutes. I hope that we can do this again sometime in the future.
It was lovely. Thank you so much for your time.